Previously on River Heights Mysteries.
This reminds me so very much of poor Mr. Spiffles back in St. Mary Mead. When a particularly fine salmon went missing, everyone accused the local poachers.
Wait a minute. Storage? A partnership? Julian Vane didn't steal his own painting for insurance? He stole it to hide the fact that it was already gone.
Chapter 7. Clues in the Crimson Paint. The cold Manhattan wind whipped through the alley, carrying the scent of rain and roasted chestnuts from a street vendor a block away. Nancy and Miss Marple huddled in a recessed doorway, watching the black sedan roar out of the garage and vanish into the midnight traffic. "We can't go back to the gallery," Nancy said, checking the street. "Detective Murphy thinks we're just meddling, and the man in the tuxedo was likely circling the block. We need to be certain about Sterling before we call in the authorities." "Quite right, dear," Miss Marple agreed, her eyes fixed on something caught in the treads of Nancy's sturdy leather shoes. "Though I believe you've already brought the most important piece of evidence with you." Nancy looked down. Snagged in the stitching of her shoe was a small, ragged scrap of heavy silk. It was a deep, vibrant crimson, the exact shade of the smudge Nancy had seen on the empty frame in the penthouse. "It's not lipstick," Nancy whispered, pulling the scrap free and holding it up to the dim streetlight. "It's a fragment of a formal cravat. But wait, there's something on it." She pulled her magnifying glass from her pocket. Under the lens, the silk wasn't just red. It was stiffened with a dried, crystalline substance. It's wax, specifically red sealing wax used for official documents. "The sort used by the London Arts Council to seal valuable cargo," Miss Marple added with a knowing nod. "When Mr. Sterling opened his portfolio on the ship, he must have been in a great hurry. In St. Mary Mead, poor Mr. Bellows once tore his Sunday waistcoat while trying to sneak a peek at the Harvest Festival results before they were announced. Heist, Nancy, always leaves a signature." If Sterling was the one who cut the canvas, he would have had the red wax on his hands or clothes from opening the real crate earlier that day. He didn't just discover the theft, he staged it to cover the fact that the real painting was already being moved. "But where?" Nancy asked, her brow furrowed. "He can't just walk onto a ship with a masterpiece under his arm." "He wouldn't have to," said Miss Marple. "He's a man of high standing. He'd use a courier. Someone who looks like they belong in the shadows of the city, not the lights of Fifth Avenue." Nancy remembered the guest list she had glimpsed on the courier's desk. There had been a name scratched out at the very bottom, the Green Mill. It's a jazz club, a speakeasy near the docks. If Sterling is meeting his courier tonight, that's where they'll go to finalize the handoff before the morning tide. "A speakeasy?" Miss Marple's eyebrows climbed toward her hat. "I believe that is the American term for a place of ill repute and illegal refreshment. How very adventurous. It reminds me of the Dewdrop Inn back home, though I suspect the music here will be a bit more spirited than the village brass band." Nancy hailed a taxi, her heart racing. The Green Mill, and step on it. As the car lurched toward the dark industrial fringe of the city, Nancy looked at the crimson scrap in her hand. The masterpiece mystery was no longer about art. It was a race against a cold-blooded syndicate. "Keep your knitting close, Miss Marple," Nancy warned as the neon signs of the waterfront began to flicker in the distance. "Oh, don't worry about me, Nancy," Jane Marple replied, her needles beginning to click in the dark of the cab. "I've always found that people talk most freely when they think no one is listening to an old lady with a ball of wool."